Okay, so I was a very interesting child, right? I won't go into exactly why, but since everything pertaining to me seems to be all very weird, wacky and wonderful, it made absolute sense that when it came time for me to leave home, why wouldn't that be a storytelling worthy incident in itself? So when I first went flatting, I ended up living with a literal Viking. So I ended up taking a 9-hour bus as far away as I could get from my hometown, because this girl on the internet, whom I had never met in person before, said that if I needed to get out, her home would be available for me. And when the push came to the shove, her mum changed her mind when I was on the bus, right in the middle of nowhere, halfway between where I had come from and my destination. And the interesting thing was, when she phoned me to tell this, my phone cut out right as she was telling me her mum had changed her mind because, oh, what would you know, we were right in the middle of nowhere with not a jot of phone reception. So that was freaking fun. She managed to find me a place though, thankfully, but it was with this older guy who was a part of a Viking group she apparently would fight with. Dude had literally lined his entire house with either things that could kill you or things that would protect you from being killed. I had to sleep on his couch because the guy who was renting off him wouldn't move out, but anyway. So when I first moved out, I became a literal Viking for a while. My friend who had helped me flee my hometown would take me to fighting practice with her every Thursday, I think it was, and Saturdays too. The guy I was living with for a while gave me one of his metal helmets and a sword because I didn't have any proper armour. I would wear whatever I was strong enough to withstand from other Vikings. And yes, I say it like that because boy, when they put that literal chainmail on you, on top of furs or an undershirt so your skin won't pinch, and then freaking metal armour on top, a bitch can't even bear to stand up. I was weak, man. I could barely even stand with just the chainmail on alone, let alone have the energy to fight. But you get where I'm coming from, right? You get the environment I was immersing myself with. It was good fun, but man were my joints stiff for the days after training. And that was all well and dandy, but it couldn't last forever. When I was done being a Viking, I had to move on because the thing was, the Viking guy I was flatting with, he was letting me live there without paying me rent until I could afford to pay him back because he was amazing and understood my situation and I needed to get a job. I felt so bad freeloading off everyone who was being so nice and looking out for me. I was applying for everything I could, but nothing was accepting me, so out of desperation I applied for this nannying agency. Now, this is just a disclaimer because I don't know if all the nannying agencies in this area are like this, or whether this is even fair at all, but I felt so ripped off. Like, they came and picked me up, which was all cool, and I was a live-in nanny to this lady and her 5-year-old son, which was interesting, because later on when I was emailing this agency, they claimed that their ages were only 0 to 4, and that they don't have 5-year-olds on their list. Okay, first red flag, because here I was picking this kid up from school and doing other things as well. I won't go into exactly why that didn't work out, but that agency had a 2-strike policy. If it doesn't work out with 2 different families, they essentially make you homeless. I got picked up by this lady who seemed sympathetic, who practically dumped me off at the city hostel, prepaying one night saying, "Oh, you're lucky you speak English. Our French girls we leave here don't even know what to do with themselves. They barely can speak any English or even navigate the city." Like, what the freaking heck, mate? This so-called nannying agency was bringing in all these foreign girls from overseas. I don't even know how I got on their list to begin with, being a native-born New Zealander, but they were putting them with these families. And then when that doesn't work out, like for any number of reasons, they just dump them in the middle of the city with no way of surviving. Like, what? So they paid for one night in this hostel I couldn't even put my bag down in. Each room was so packed full of people, the security guard person thing had to dump someone else's stuff off the bed that was apparently mine, and that was just to fit me in it. I don't know how I was actually going to live there, and I'm glad I didn't find out because boy, I didn't even stay one night. I was very lucky to have friends networked through a game called Ingress I was playing at the time. I was very fortunate that they came out of their way all across the city to actually pick me up because I didn't have a car or license at the time. And when this dude's partner came and helped me get my suitcase out of there, she said that she didn't feel like I was actually safe staying there with the amount of guys packed in that room and the way they were looking at me. And I'm honestly so mad because how dare you do that as an agency? How dare you take these vulnerable little French girls out of their own country and then just leave them to have who knows what happen when they can't even speak the native tongue here? How many lives have you compromised because of your shoddy agency practices? I get so mad even thinking about it now, and it's been so many years, but maybe one day when I'm rich and powerful, I'll find a way to do something about it. I could probably find the emails belonging to this agency if I digged back far enough through my inbox. And honestly, how dare you do that to people whom you know can't do anything about it? So I lived with this couple who had rescued me for a while. They lived in this isolated little town that's practically also in nowhere. I managed to get a job within the first few days being there too, but that didn't really last because that place was toxic as all heck. Like, it was in butchery, right? For a very large brand that is more commonplace than you'd think. And I was there sorting meat this one time, and like, not the boss guy, but the oldest guy there, he was so horrible. I never saw anything nice in him. He came in and, I kid you not, took one of the meat hooks that was hanging from the ceiling, turned to the newest guy there that wasn't me, and grilled into him asking why he hadn't HUNG himself on it there. Like, he even showed him how he should do it and everything. He was awful, and that kind of crap wasn't even uncommon either. So as you can guess, I didn't last long there. I didn't feel comfortable working around people like that, and when I get anxious like that, I shut down. And because they had hired me on a 90-day trial, they just got rid of me because apparently I wasn't as fast as the one other girl who had been working there for literally years, and I was making too much mistakes. Like, what can I say when you're getting humiliated daily and asked why you haven't KILLED yourself yet? It doesn't really bring out the best in a person. So after that, I bummed around for a bit. I was trying so hard to get a job, but that was just not being accepted into anything. I was forced to apply to WINS because I wasn't able to get myself a job. Actually, I lie. I was able to get myself a job, but because the job was in the next town over, and this little town at the time didn't have a reliable bus system, they couldn't hire me. So then I went back to WINS, explained my situation saying, hey, I really don't like just sitting around on the benefit. Could I maybe get some support getting my driver's license so I can actually get a job? Because that's always been a failing point for me, right? No job ever seems interested in you if you don't have your license. But WINS came right back to me and they were all like, well, how would you afford a car? And then I said I'd save up for one, and they decided that I wasn't worth spending the money on and would rather me just sit there and be a drain on their system without contributing to society instead. And then they decided that they didn't even like me doing that. So after about a year, they organised a meeting with me because I strongly suspect they were going to cut my benefit and leave me to starve and die because I wasn't able to progress anywhere further. But luckily enough, I got myself accepted into study and was all set to move to a different region down south. So because I was practically moving in about a week, they let me have my final payment. But boy, I have no shame in condemning WINS because yeah, I get it, everyone's abusing the system. But when you're sitting here actively trying to scheme up ways to not give people relying on you to live the money they need to survive, only one of two things is going to happen. One, people can't actually afford to live anymore, which means they either don't live or they get desperate and turn to compromise significantly dodgier means of survival that are in no way safe to begin with. Or two, the people you have left actively turn to abuse the system because you're sitting there so intent on trying to take money out of the hands of people who may have a kid to feed, who may have a disability, to people who can't even make it to the office for all these regular appointments you keep scheduling for them to explain why their medical conditions haven't gone away because, surprise, surprise, medical conditions generally don't. That people have to become smart. They have to find ways to exploit things because the support that's there otherwise is a joke and it's not even that close to being funny. So I moved down south to study and surprise, surprise, that didn't work out either. Because when you get desperate enough to grab at anything in order to live, your choices aren't generally the best ones. And I was already doing dodgy shit on the side because it felt like WINS would rather me be dead than alive. So about 2 years into a 3-year degree, I couldn't take it anymore and knew if I wanted to live, it couldn't be like this. So I dropped out. I was back to square one, getting abused by jobs that didn't care about my safety or what was happening to me. and as a result, I now have the tea on one very big Australian-based retailer who tries to act like they're cool. But honestly, bro, if you're gonna work for a company, look up a website called glassdoor.com, and if all their anonymous reviews are of people going home crying every day, that people can't take the toxic atmosphere, and that they'd rather be anywhere else, you don't chance it and hope it's just a regional thing. A company's bad reviews equals workplace culture. So anyway, I was back to square one. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a degree. I needed to figure shit out fast because my partner was currently paying my rent and I can't take sponging money off people. So I stopped and had a think and thought, alright, my mental health is among the worst it's been in a long time. I don't even fully know who I am anymore. I have nothing to lose. What is it I really want? And all I could think of back was to my not so childhood dreams of wanting world domination, or before that, I want to be rich and famous, or even just hating the system and having to rely on all these outside jobs that just seem to screw you over at the drop of a hat. I couldn't rely on people like Wins or studying anymore. I was so burnt out from doing dodgy shit. So I retranslated that into a professional work appropriate language, and what came out was, I want to study business. I want to create jobs. I want to be influential enough to affect people's lives and futures, and I want to go so much further than this compromised life. I was still very much burnt out though. To be honest, I don't think I could ever go back and bog myself down for a whole degree like that again. So, with the help of my partner, we went to a different learning style of education-based institute that was not the same place I had dropped out of, and applied for a 6-month course that was enough to get me qualified, but not enough to suffocate me under the weight of a long-term commitment. And it worked out. I even managed to get part-time work in a cafe pretty much as soon as I got accepted as well. And it wasn't perfect, but I worked so hard that I made something of it just by sheer force of will itself. I was working there all my weekends. I was working there on what was meant to be my self-directed study day. I was covering every other shift I possibly could. And to be fair, that was probably why I only just scraped through passing towards the end of my study, because I worked so hard that when I got home, I could barely even move. And yeah, I ended up staying on extra and increasing my level of study too. The curriculum wasn't what I expected to be. It was more teaching office and admin skills rather than the entrepreneurial skills that I was seeking, but I feel like it was something I needed to do, so I stuck it out, and now I finally have an office job as a result. And for the record, I don't care if some people reckon office jobs are boring and just the same old thing. I want the same old thing. I look forward to it. It gives me reliability in a safe space where I know there's minimal chance of me suddenly being without a job, or not being able to understand something, or that I might not be good enough or fast enough, or have to deal with the insane amount of pressures like working hospitality provides. And I still want world domination, hard out, but for now I am so blessed I have employment in a place that can afford to look out for me during this COVID-19 lockdown, and it employs me at a rate that allows me to get by on part-time hours, which in turn gives me leeway which I can devote to the channel, making my art, and learning more about business and marketing the way I want to at my own pace. And yes, I'm still poor. I'm an artist. I feel like that comes with the territory. But at least I'm just be careful how you spend poor, not you are only one mistake away from being out on the street poor, which is what I feel like I've lived with for longer than I can count. If you want to support me with the whole world domination plan though, make sure you subscribe to me, share my videos, and recommend me to everyone you know. Like, that's 3 things right there that are absolutely free, and it helps get me to the point where I can hopefully level up and progress further. And if you've made it this far, I'm honestly so grateful and surprised you're still here, because that was a lot of bitching. I'm going to have to cut things off here though, because I swear every single YouTube video I make, it gets longer and longer each time. I'm getting out of control. So, thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.